Today we are going to work on solving equations with variables on both sides. While Smart Notebook is coming up, I would like to remind you that when we are solving equations, we would like to visualize this scale in our mind. And the golden rule of algebra is that we would like to keep the scale or equation always balanced on each side. And in order to do that, whatever operation we do to one side of our equation, we must do to the other. So taking this visual, for example, subtracting a yellow piece from the left-hand side, my scale suddenly becomes very unbalanced. But if I go and I perform that operation on the right-hand side, my scale goes back to being balanced. So whatever I do to one side, I must do to the other in order to maintain balance. Keeping that thought in mind, let's look at an example of solving an equation with variables on both sides. The recommendation is when we are faced with a problem that has variables on both sides, our first goal should be to identify the side in which we would like to move the variables to. In this particular example, you will notice that the person solving has opted to move the variable from the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And in order to do that, you must do the opposite. So the opposite of subtracting 4x would be to add 4x to both sides. When we move the 4x, we are left with 10 equals a negative 5x. We must then try to move the coefficient away from the variable, and in doing that, we would divide by negative 5. When we divide by negative 5 on both sides, we are then down to our solution of negative 2 is equal to x. Like all the equations that we solve in algebra, we can always double check our work, which the book reminds us to do over here. By plugging in our value of negative 2 for both of the x's, we can then see that each side of the equation remains balanced, and we get this little check mark, which means that we have done our problem correctly. This is an example of how, using Screencastify, you can maintain a normal lesson while you might be gone, or it would allow you to flip the classroom, asking students to watch the video the night prior and do an in-class activity or homework the following day.